All right, so let's get to some of the predictions you're going to have to give us today. We're curious about whether or not you have the Bears with a winning season. Do you
Oh
think
yeah,
they're in
yeah.
competition for a playoff spot, but are they in the playoffs? How do you look at the Bears? And yep,
I think they can get a wild card. I
okay,
think they can get a wild card. I think that's realistic. Well, for starters, 43.8% of the NFL can label itself a playoff team at the end of every year, right? That's not the quite the accomplishment it used to be with the expansion of the playoffs back in 2021. So 14 of your 32 teams reach the postseason. That's doable. That shouldn't be some insurmountable hurdle that is so difficult to crack. Now it's a tough division, and I think it's one of the maybe possibly one of the two best divisions in the entire league. But the way that schedule sets up, I think, we may look back come week 8 and say, boy, this, a couple of these teams on the Bears schedule are significantly different than we were expecting. So the strength of schedule can shift, right? But the way it sets up right now, we talked about it yesterday, guys. There's some teams on there that they should be able to take care of business against. So I think that a wild card is doable, and I wouldn't rule out the possibility that they could challenge for the division. Why put a ceiling on it?
Interesting, Brad. A lot of optimism from you. We both picked 9 and 8. I think that's doable and realistic. My biggest concern about the Bears beginning Sunday is how can they stop the run? You look at the Titans' offensive line. Peter Skronsky, high pick from Northwestern. We know him well, local kid. J.C. Latham, high pick, left tackle. They're going to be able to maybe move the ball on the ground against a Bears defense that is going to struggle maybe stopping the run. Can the Bears stop the run against the Titans, and how big of a concern do you have?
The Bears were really good against the run last year, guys. Really good. Now, obviously tops in the league in run defense in 2023 and 86.4 yards a game. So I would expect the Titans to try to get the run game going. That's how you help out your young quarterback, and they paid a whole boatload of money to Lloyd Cushenberry to get a new center in there as well. They have revamped that offensive line, but I think if Tennessee comes in with the plan of we're going to run it, I think Matt Eberflus and the Bears would say, bring it on. Let's go, and you'll find out, how prepared and ready they got in training camp and preseason for some physical football out of the gate. But I think the Bears would be equipped to handle that pretty well. It should be, right?
yeah. I think what's interesting to me is, and what the difficulty I had when I looked at the game is that we think of both these teams, both the Titans and the Bears, as sort of old-fashioned smash mouth football teams, and they're both sort of going through this transition into the modern NFL, right? I think the
Yeah,
Titans
yeah.
are too. Yeah.
Absolutely, and the Titans looked explosive in preseason,
Yeah.
and I I I don't want to put too much stock in that because I don't put too much stock in it when I see the Bears do certain things in the preseason because it's the preseason, but they had the same idea in the off season in terms of let's focus our resources on one side of the ball and let's have it be the offense. Now they did it a little bit differently in terms of what the Bears did. They already had their quarterback in place in Will Levis, so they went on the offensive line. They brought in a couple receivers, so the whole focus is try to get the thing up and rolling with the quarterback for both of them. The questions I would have about Tennessee would besides the obvious ones about Will Levis, who was 3-6 in 9 starts as a rookie a year ago, would be about the defense. They've got some older guys. I'd have questions about their ability to rush the passer, probably some questions about the secondary. So maybe it's a good first opponent for Caleb Williams. I don't know.
You look at the injury report yesterday, DeMarcus Walker's name shows up with the groin issue that he got off to a slow start last year because of some injuries. Brad, what's the level of concern there? Anything else about the injury report that stands out?
Nothing too alarming. What you don't know about DeMarcus Walker being limited was there something in Wednesday's practice where they had to throttle him back a little bit on Thursday, or on Thursday, did he only go through 30% of practice because he had a groin issue pop up in the middle of practice? Like which way and to what extent was he limited in practice? But they've got, we've talked about this, they kept 6 defensive ends on the 53-man roster. I had a chuckle with Travis Smith, the defensive line coach, yesterday, and I jokingly asked if he was, jumping on the table for 7 defensive ends on 53-man roster. And he said, "Remember when you saw me at the combine and you were throwing a couple names at me?" And my response was, "I'd love to have them all." And so they're going to mix and match, I think, with those defensive ends to try to find something that clicks, and then you go with the hot hand until it cools off, and you try another pairing. But they're going to be able to keep them fresh. That's something Matt Eberflus talked about day one when he came in. It's something you heard from Rod Marinelli, who obviously had a huge influence on Matt Eberflus's career with playing the defensive linemen in waves to keep them fresh. So when Will Levis has got a 3rd and 6 with 6 minutes to go in the ball game, you've got some defensive linemen out there that have got some juice left, because while it's not going to be hot on Sunday, guys, these players are going to be gassed at the end to play a full game for the first time, and that's really going to take a toll on them.
This segment with Brad Biggs is sponsored by Estwing Professional Tools, made in the USA for 100 years, estwing.com. I believe Biggsy has an Estwing hammer.
And he can swing it.
So back off. Who did you take in the game, Brad?
I thought about it for a while. I really did, because it just, at first glance, I'm like, I'm going to take the Bears here. And then I flipped, I don't want to fall into a trap because I think Tennessee could be an interesting team this season. If Callahan can get things going in the right direction with Will Levis, if you believe that his father, Bill, can get that offensive line playing at a pretty high level in short order, that can be a competitive and interesting football team this year. So, and there's some unknown. And I think Denard Wilson will do a nice job with the defense, even though he didn't get quite as many new parts as they got on offense this season. But I after consideration and taking some time, I picked the Bears to win the game 23-20.
That's my score.
That's exactly what Mully picked. Wow, coincidence.
We did not talk about this last night.
All right. Let me ask you about Bill Belichick's opinion of Caleb Williams. Did you see that, and do you have a reaction to it? Because he deemed
I didn't see it. What was it?
Said he was
He's everywhere now. That guy's media schedule makes you look like a little bit of a slacker these days, Dave.
Okay. Thanks, Brad. Here's what Bill Belichick had to say, Brad. Give us your reaction right after you hear it.
Whoever they played against in preseason, it wasn't the best players on the other team.
So what you're saying is, Coach, we can't plan a parade because Caleb was so accurate in the preseason.
Well, he wasn't accurate. He's 10 for 20.
Yeah, it's like you didn't watch the 20 throws. Come on. There's a reason he's excited.
It's 20 throws, Chad.
He buzzed through them. And
you got to think how good the 10 were that were completed. The extended plays, the footwork.
They weren't that good. There was a couple highlight plays.
See?
They weren't that good.
And no one's saying he might not be great. But what we're saying is, it's just you need the context. It's like when I hear somebody's lighting it up in camp, I'm like, is he running with the twos? Is he going against the two defense? Is the quarterback struggling because he's got the two offensive line? There's just a lot we don't know.
Yeah, well,
that's kind of saying he's not going to be great, Brad.
I don't think he's saying that. I just think he's saying that some of the hype that's based off of these highlight plays that you saw in preseason, you got to be a little bit careful with, because and that's what I've picked up in talking to people around the league about Caleb and about some of these other rookie quarterbacks that are in this class and young quarterbacks in general. Tennessee's likely, I would expect, I haven't spoken to Denard, but I would expect his game plan is going to be to try to keep Caleb in the pocket, because he is so dynamic when he can escape the pocket, when he can extend the plays. He can do stuff that really can't be coached, and he can do it at a very high level, But to project massive success for him in his career, people like Belichick, they're going to want to see the operation from the pocket. And I can understand that. And that's what people that I've been talking to in the past week, really all summer, hey, that's where the rubber is going to hit the road. That's what everybody is interested to see, because if he can do that as well, then it's going to be really dynamic.
That's good stuff, Brad, even though you did call me a slacker. Good insight.
Well, I called you a slacker in comparison to Bill with as much media he's doing. You got to listen.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. Thank you.
Bigsy, you're the best. Thank you, buddy.
See you Sunday.